so great to see so many familiar faces here. You know, a lot of friends, a lot of family, a lot of VIPs in the place to come and celebrate this this project. So, what is hi-fi to the people all about, right? What is this project all about? You know, we talk a lot about celebrating sound system culture in New York, or like the history of sound system culture. And I think really the first thing that we have to ask ourselves is, what is sound system culture, right? And I think that's actually it's not a very straightforward answer, right? It kind of depends who you ask. I think our perspective is that sound system culture is not really defined by any musical genre, any musical scene. There's no like romanticized origin stories. But really, for me, sound system culture is about, it's a set of values, right? It's about, universal values that are interpreted all over the world. And in a way, it's kind of timeless and it has no boundaries, right? So for me, those values are self-reliance and determination. It's about creating your own space, about building your own equipment, bringing the equipment, creating the safe space for your community. That's kind of very important. I think it's about ingenuity, it's about innovation, right? Whether that's musical innovation, whether that's technological innovation. It's about this kind of pursuit for excellence at all costs. But above all, it's all about the community. It's about bringing people together. And I think that's kind of really the foundation of what sound system culture is about. It's about, again, creating a safe space for your community, whether that's your immigrants, the disenfranchised, or whatever that is, right? It's about like really kind of making it happen and not relying on everyone else. So throughout the series, we'll be really focusing on New York, right? The scope of sound system culture in New York over the last 50 years. And to me, it's really a legacy that has been underappreciated, right? Underrepresented. And so that's why we wanted to do this project. So tonight, we're going to kick it off with a panel discussion. And we brought together actually 4 individuals that represent different perspectives of sound system culture in New York, and I'm very interested in having them talk together, right? And to lead the discussion, we've called upon a really good friend, long-time collaborator, Mr. Carter Van Pelt. He's the producer of the Reggae on the Boardwalk series, director of catalog at VP Records, radio broadcaster, writer, historian, many things, a man of many talents. So with that being said, Carter, I'll give it to you.
Thank you, Q. And thanks for everything you've done with Dub-Stuy over the years and celebrating this whole concept and sound system culture, which means so many different things to different people. I'm gonna bring in the panelists, and initially we're gonna just like delve into that topic from a more personal level for each of them. I want to first ask Hassan Pore to come up. He's like videotaping in the back, but you got to stop that now. But he is a filmmaker, and he grew up in Queens and was a youth who got to experience the outdoor party scene. Yes, the outdoor party scene that was sound system oriented. He made an important film that I encourage you all to check out called Founding Fathers, The Untold Story of Hip Hop, which, if I can characterize it, it does a couple things. One, it tells a bigger story than just hip hop started in the Bronx, but in so doing, it talks a lot about sound system and the sound system scene that had proliferated from early years in Queens and in Brooklyn. And there's a lot to dig into, and we're going to hear from him. And I'm going to ask you to take a seat. I'm going to introduce you want to go to the far side? Yeah. I'm going to introduce each of the panelists, and then we're going to reason a little bit. I will ask Lenny Fontana to come out next. Lenny is a DJ of extraordinary accomplishment and a part of the New York DJ culture for 4 decades, and he is, I think one of the hottest things on his resume is that he played at Studio 54. He knows the tradition that he comes from, and he's deeply invested in every aspect of it. So we're really gonna get some insights from him tonight on the club scene and how sound system relates to the club scene that happened in New York in the 70s and 80s, as he was an integral part of that. I wanna invite Puma to come up. Puma, where are you at? Yes, sitting in the back. This is Puma. Colin Abrahams is his right name. Government name, yeah. And Puma is one of the preeminent Sound Clash DJs to come out of Brooklyn. And I know that if you know like a little bit about the Biltmore era, you probably heard of King Adi's. This man went toe-to-toe with King Adi's and beyond. He's still at it to this day, and I just love the way he plays. I mean, he's got huge fans in people like Walshy Fire, who will never stop talking about how this man's sound system is the best that ever came out of Brooklyn. So, big respect to Puma. All right. Last and by no means least, Joe Nice represents a new iteration, yes man, new iteration of sound system culture in the United States by bringing dubstep here, popularizing it here, and really like letting it take flight through his Dub Wars party and everything that he's done. Even though he hasn't been living in New York, he operated out of here from Baltimore, and we were talking about the Chinatown bus and how he used to come in and out of here and put his life at risk. But the music that he plays is a whole nother level of bass culture. I mean, talk about like bass that gets inside your DNA. That's what his music is all about. So let's have a seat, and I want to have each of the panelists just touch on what sound system or sound system culture means to them, and like when did it click, or when did it become an essential part of your, desire to experience music. For me, I didn't grow up around like a strong sound system culture, but I did get really into reggae, and I can remember distinctly one of my first trips to Jamaica. I was sitting like on a gully bank listening to a small sound system, in the range of this size. It was just, an outdoors playing, and it played a Burning Spear track called Call on You that I'd heard 50 times before. And then when that thing hit, it was like a new song, like I had never heard it in my life, because the bass was present, and it was like sublime. And so, to me, the sound system is a way to try to aspire to the best that music can be. And that's where I'm coming from. And so that's kind of behind the founding of Reggae on the Boardwalk and Reggae Under the Bridge, etc. But I don't know what order you guys want to take it in. Hassan, do you want to talk first and give me your perspective on this?
Well, for me, I believe the first time that I witnessed a sound system in the park was probably around 72, 73. But I would say maybe around 74, 75, there was a record by Kraftwerk called Trans-Europe Express. And when I heard that in the park with the sound system, it just was crazy. The person, the DJ that was playing at the time, I believe it was a Jamaican guy. He was an older guy named King Charles. And he had like a really big Seren Vega sound system, and he wasn't a great DJ, but he was able to marshal this equipment into the park, and there would be hundreds of people dancing. And for me, that's just an experience that I remember, that it lives with me, and I think that was the beginning for me, that music was for me.
I hope we can come around to King Charles some more, because that was a revelation to me in your documentary that I really appreciated. But let's move on to Lenny. What's your take on this topic?
When you mention bass in your face, high in your eyes, well, let's say being a young kid and going to your grandparents' house in Brooklyn in the middle of the disco era, okay? Saturday Night Fever just happened. And on the streets, they were bringing sound systems out, and they were bringing Marantz amplifiers, which is unheard of today, okay? And home speakers, and that was like a first initial welcome to what we thought was going to be super cool. The next part would be your radio of Disco 92 is telling you you're going to dance to this disco music now that became something that was born in the gay discos and now became commercial. So when you're a young kid and being exposed to all this, there's nothing better than to watch people from all ethnic backgrounds dancing in the middle of a street with a sound system and saying, what exactly is this guy doing with this change? Because that's the gravitation. The magnet force was the DJ. The sound was the second part. But if you're looking at it from, like if you're watching a movie and you're watching all this going on, and that happened to be people like later on that I learned that were part of Odyssey 2001, and that disco floor that you all saw, and that one of those close friends of mine is Ralphie D, who was the DJ at the club. And he inspired all of us to want to do this. Of course, later on, you venture into this little place called Manhattan, which has massive sound systems. And you don't know what those big boxes are doing. You don't know the names of what the boxes are. Of course, if you're a guy like me, you want to crawl into this stuff, and you're seeing people hanging out in these things called the Bertha. And why they call it the Bertha? Because she's a huge box that's dispersing air across a room that was kicking you in your chest. And you never forgot that feeling. And once you get that bug, you never want to not have that again. It's like that high. You know what I'm saying? It's
called
just incredible.
Chasing the Dragon.
And it never leaves you. No matter how old you get, you go, I want that. And that feeling of your hair stands up, your endorphin levels go through. I remember being online to get in certain clubs, and you hear, and you can know that when you walked in, it was going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah. And when you did, you went, holy shit, this is real. Nobody's going to believe me back home. I used to say this all the time. Nobody's going to believe me what I'm saying, because where I come from in Queens is small-minded. They were all dreaming about going to a club called the Fun House. And that's a whole other story with John Jellybean Benitez. And it's super cool. And they're all having their beatboxes, and Run DMC is on at the time. But now I'm getting exposed to Eddie Grant, gospel music, a whole different aura of music happened at one time, and I was like trying to explain this to people, and then them telling me, you're full of shit, man, what are you talking about? Because they wouldn't understand what I'm saying. I'm saying, if you don't go and hear what this guy is doing, you're not gonna ever know what I'm talking about. It was like being in a special elite place, you know? Nothing ever can top that feeling. I guess because when you're an outsider coming in for the first time, the impression is so Disney World. It's like your first time you walk in, you go, oh my God. And then the next part is, I want to be part of this. How can I be part of it? And I want to be that guy up there, the puppet master, like the Wizard of Oz, pushing the whole thing and controlling the lights and controlling the smoke and the heat. No air conditioning. Why is the air conditioning going off? All that stuff you don't realize until you are part of the in-crew. And he tells you, watch, see those people over there? They're putting their jackets on, they're not going home. He played their record. You see them walking, dropping their coat, and he would play Dr. Love or something like that. And they would just drop the jacket and stay for another 6 hours. That's the kind of power a DJ has. And that's when I said, I want to do that, and I want to be part of that.
So Puma now. Puma, you're from Clarendon, Jamaica, right?
Well, originally born in Kingston.
You were born in Kingston, but you grew up in the country.
Grew up in the country.
All right. Now, we don't need to rehash that sound system comes from Jamaica. We know that it goes back to the early 1950s. And if you want some origin story stuff, I gotta recommend, and I gotta shout out Christopher Johnson from 99% Invisible, who did a great early history on his podcast. It's an essential history of early sound system days, calling out people like Headley Jones, the engineer, inventor extraordinaire, Tom the Great Sebastian, and what they got rolling in Jamaica in the 1950s, long before there was new Jamaican music being created. Puma grew up in this incredible, rich sound system environment. I don't want to overtell it, but I want to hear like, did you take this for granted? How did it come into your ears? How did it come into your household? What was it for you?
Well, growing up in Jamaica, you know, I say my grandmother raised like 5 of us, and we grew up right next to 2 dance hall. Because the clubbing back in the days, we used to call them dance hall. You know what I say? And it's mostly outside, zinc fence or a bamboo lawn. You know what I say? So growing up next to 2 dance hall, go to the parties, them, you used to pick up the buckles. After the party them finish, you pick up the buckles and you go to the shop and you sell them and make a little money. You know what I say? So growing up like that and loving the music, and then forward into America in the 80s, in the early 80s, 82. You know what I say? Because when I forward to America and bring some of the cassettes them, the live audios them from back in the days, like the Yellow Man, the Jack Rubies, the what that sound. I can name some sound system from back then in them days. Playing it in my Walkman and going to school and listening to it. Most of the Americans, them never really understand the language. Reggae music was like an underground music. You know what I say? Go to the basement parties, them, and you know, certain kind of stuff. So forward in New York now, and I say, all right, coming from Jamaica, I love the music, so I want to build a sound system. So when I start building my sound system, I start from car speakers. Like people used to steal people's cars, and after them thief the cars them and take off what they want, I go in there and I take out the car speakers them. Go in my house and I hook them up, and you know. So that's when we start from car speaker, take my mother records them, take my stepfather records them. If my neighbor have some records what I don't have, I'm gonna go borrow them and maybe they don't get it back. You know, because you have to be careful back in the days with your records them. You know what I mean? I say even playing at party, people steal records and stuff. So.
Yeah, unfortunately they still do that.
Well, unfortunately, no, we're not really, in my era right now, I still have my records. I will never sell them, but nowadays I use a computer.
And you use it well, and I'm so like I have to thank you every time when I think back to when you first came to Reggae on the Boardwalk, and I don't even think you were in the United States at the time, but you made sure that you got out your actual dub plates. You didn't.
Yeah, I was living in Germany that time.
Yeah, you were living in Germany. I was like, it's cool for this man. I'll give him a pass, and he can play off the laptop. But no, he got into.
Well, you say you want
plates.
the original style, and you want the original thing.
Respect for that.
So I'm give you the original.
I want to hear more about the 80s and the 90s in Brooklyn and your sound system experience here. But first, I want to give Joe the chance to answer the same question about his first touch point and impression of sound system and like how it got into his bones.
Good evening, everybody. And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. The weather is terrible, so thank you all for coming out tonight, and thanks to all the organizers for putting this together, because we need more cultural events like this. We need to continue to tell these stories, because more often than not, we have a tendency to gloss over the history of what happened. And for my specific genre, dubstep, there seems to be I don't mind saying this, a whitewashing of what's happened. So we want to make sure that we tell the story as it's supposed to be told. But to answer your question, Carter, my experience with sound system culture comes from a slightly different perspective. You were saying you were from Jamaica. My mother and father are both from Trinidad and Tobago. And my father played steel pan when I was a little boy. So music was always a part of my life. It just was. Grew up in Baltimore, the college radio station 88.9 WEAA FM, and they would on Saturdays from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock It would always be the Prime Minister, Neil Matai. It was just nothing but Caribbean music. A lot of steel pan, soca, calypso, all of that. So on Saturday mornings, my father was in a steel pan group called the Maryland Pace Center's Steel Drum Orchestra. I still might have the only 2 copies of that record in existence. I still have it. And, you know, my dad was on the back of the cover with his bald afro and everything, little picture and all that. It was there. So here I am, 6 years old, and I would always drive with my father on Saturday mornings. I wasn't one of these Saturday morning kids that would sit in front of the TV and watch cartoons and, you know, pig out on a bowl of cereal or a box of cereal. I was going with my father to watch him play steel pan. And when I first wanted to play steel pan, I wanted to play the bass steel pan. I didn't want to play guitar pan like my father. I wanted to play the bass pan because you had more pans around you, but you had fewer areas to hit. So you just boom, 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 right? So here I am, this tall. The steel pans are this tall. Career over at that point. Done. Done before it started. But I was still always interested in music. So right around that time, I started playing instruments in grade school and in high school, and then DJing came around. And a lot of my interest in sound system was not only influenced by my Caribbean heritage, parents from Trinidad, but also the rich musical history that Baltimore had and still has. A lot of soulful house, but of course Baltimore club. So here I am, 14, 15 years old, buying records, going to house parties, starting to play the occasional gig here and there. So my interest or my background with sound system culture is really more of a twofold experience. It really comes from my father playing in steel pan groups and then just having that Jamaican and that Trinidadian influence. But then me getting interested in just being a DJ and going to parties and hearing music on a loud sound system, hearing bass, hearing, you know, all those classic Masters at Work tunes and all of their other aliases that they had, like Hard Drive, Deep Inside. I mean, how many of us know that tune? You hear that cymbal crash, deep inside, deep, deep, with the Barbara Tucker sample. And then the rest is history. So, and I know there's a lot to talk about, and we'll get into that history, Carter, but yeah, it's ironic that I'm talking about my dad because here it is almost a year ago to the day where he passed away, and he's been on my mind a lot ever since I got invited to talk about the history of sound system culture in New York City, because like the other esteemed panelists here, I didn't grow up in Baltimore. I'm sorry, I didn't grow up in New York, I grew up in Baltimore. I lived there, so it was Chinatown bus, you know, whatever, Peter Pan bus, train up here, 3.5, 4 hours, doing my thing, hang out, back to Baltimore the next day or the day after that. So I spent a lot of time in this city, even though I never lived in this city. So I still have Baltimore DNA, but there's a part of me that is New York, is this sound system culture, emphasis on culture.
Well, there's obviously something special that happens when you bring all these elements together in New York City.
Yes.
You know, New York City is a place like no other. The amount of people coming together from different places and just the opportunity to be creative here, which go back 50 years, I think maybe there was a little bit more space to be creative. And I don't want to digress into this too much, but nowadays, it's harder and harder to play a big sound outdoors. Hassan, back when you were coming up, Lenny, I want you guys to take the conversation. Everyone's welcome to come into the conversation around this point. But as far as the origins of sound system in New York, you did call out King Charles because of the size of his set. And I love that because, you know, that it helps establish that Jamaican sound system was here, whether or not reggae was playing on it. It was the medium came here. King Charles let other younger people play through his set, and that created space for a whole lot of development. So if you can take the baton from there, talk about that, talk about the early DJs, and maybe some of the, you know, the points that are relevant from your film, and Lenny's going to know a lot about this history too. So you guys just kick it around for a minute.
So, like I said, with King Charles, he probably had one of the biggest systems during that time. We're talking 71, 72, 73. He, as far as a DJ, like I said earlier, he wasn't the best DJ, but he would have the younger guys would, first of all, the kids didn't have the money to afford this stuff. It's not like today. If you had a professional system, it really cost a lot of money. But the younger kids, they figured out how to do certain things, meaning the era that came right after King Charles. Anybody over 50 or 60 here would remember if you went to the stoplight, you had to press the button for the light to change. I don't know if anybody remembers that here, but you had to press a button for the light to turn green. It was some kind of sonar thing that would detect the traffic. Those things were tweeters. So they would steal those things out of the...
Those are what they called the bullet, right?
Yeah, the bullet tweeters, exactly. So they would, the kids would climb up the light posts and they would steal these things that ended up being tweeters. And then when they would play in the park, they would climb up in the trees and basically tie them into the trees and hook them up to their sound system, and that was the tweeters. In 74, 75, there was a movie that came out called Earthquake. Does anybody remember Earthquake? Everybody's young here, but there was a movie that came out in 74, 75.
That scared the hell out of me.
Right, yeah. Earthquake. And it was in sense around, meaning that when you saw the movie, you felt the buildings crashing because of the speakers. So there was a small company out of Los Angeles called Serwin Vega at the time. They made these speakers called Earthquake speakers that was in certain theaters that showed this movie. So some of the DJs, what they did, they went to see the movie, they stayed in the movie closed, they took the speakers apart and got the specs and built their own Earthquake speakers because didn't have the money to do it, so they figured it out. So even with the turntables, when the cutting and scratching came into play, most of the turntables weren't made for you to cut and scratch or mix. There was no pitch control, none of that stuff. So they would put stuff like wax paper under the record, could spin it backwards and, figure out how to manipulate the record. And as time went on and on, there was also another guy named Richard Long. Richard Long, he invented the Bertha speaker. I believe the Bertha had like two 18-inch woofers with a big horn in the front.
A W
Yeah,
setup.
exactly. So this speaker was the same speaker that was in Studio 54, the Loft, what have you.
In the Loft, they had clip sound system.
Oh, right, okay.
Clip scalas and things.
But one Bertha would probably
the size of
be
this, pretty
the
much
size
was.
of this. That's one Bertha. There was a group, two DJs that happened to be twins. They went by the name of the Disco Twins. They had two Berthas, and they would play in the park, and you would hear Dr. Love from 10 blocks away. That's how strong the music was, and the bass and what have you. I know you can fill in on.
Okay, so Kool Herc, everybody knows who he is, right? So back at that time when he's talking about Kool Herc, they were all using Altec Lansing Voice of the Theater. Voice of the Theater was all over New York City because it was a speaker that was designed in the 40s, in the 50s, in the 60s. So this was something that Alex Rosner from Rosner Custom Sound was installing in all the clubs all over New York City. Okay? Richard Long comes from a degree, he's talking about RLA Sound Systems.
Mathematician.
He's a mathematician. He worked for General Electric. He was a scientist. He could build a nuclear bomb. And he looked like a weird scientist. He also had a dream. He wanted to set up a club. So he set up his first club, along with another man in 1970 that actually created what we all know about clubbing today, called The Loft, David Mancuso. So Mancuso starts his first night on Valentine's Day, February 12th, is it 1970. And from there, let's put it like this, the blueprint of what's to come after starts from someone like him. Now, mind you, on the east side of New York City in the 60s, where El Morocco would later become famous, was a club called Sybil's. The late, great Sybil, who was married to Richard Burton. And those that watch Cleopatra would know this was his ex-wife, and she created a nightclub. She also created the idea from London, and that's where Jamaican sound systems really take a pull because of the Caribbean, being that Britain had a hold on Jamaica. Now, those that know the geographical history of England, parliamentary, you're now having a combination of Caribbean style coming to England, and that starts to take off in England. At the same time, through the 70s, funk music, R&B, radio becomes FM from AM radio. Sol Makosa Manu de Baño is one of the first big records that is an African style record that crosses into mainstream thanks to Frankie Crocker, WBLS New York. But also, before that, it was the power of the DJ, playing it at parties, at the Loft. You've had other DJs that come after him, Nicky Ciano, others that create clubs all around the same area in the lower part of Manhattan. Moving from there, I would say Richard Long creates his club and brings a young DJ along, Larry Levan. And that's where the architecture begins to start. What he's hearing Alex Rosner doing, and he worked with Rosner Custom Sound, that voiced at theater. He thought it sounded pretty cool, but he wanted what that sound of the Jamaican low end was. Because I interviewed Robert Coleman from RLA, and there was talk about that because of the music, and they were listening to the records, and they were working out, we want that low end. So they had to go through breaking three different things, different types of birch plywood, different designs. I mean, mind you, the folded horn design as we all know it, which is meaning the air travels through. The longer it takes for it to travel through, the better the low frequency is. By the time it pushes out, and if you have enough space, as you know, when you're setting up big sound systems, the further you have, the better that low end's gonna be, okay? So they had to figure out a way to make this work, and also with the power amplifiers they had at the time. Because, you know, now you got 100,000 watts of power in a small little thing, and back then it was the opposite. It took vacuum tubes, took a lot of power to make something really loud. So you had to kind of think, mathematician-wise, what was it going to be working to get it there?
A lot of the guys who were really good at this had a background. They were trained as electrical engineers or studied in electronics in Jamaica. That was like a key aspect. And knowing how to get access to more power than you get out of a standard line, jacking into lines. Like you probably remember in Jamaica, people climb up a telephone pole and live wire the thing.
Well, most of the sound system in Jamaica, like back in the 70s and the 80s, them used to, the amplifier them used to use like tube amplifier. You know, so some people used to make them own amplifier, get the specs and then build them own amplifier. But my story is a little bit different, you know what I mean? Because me forward in New York and playing reggae music in New York, me forward in the rough time in New York, where when me forward, the music was even playing on the radio station. You know what I mean? So we have Gil Bailey, we have Kingston Lindsay, and we have to set up a night time, so we don't really have that much radio station in New York to listen to the music. We have to go to the record shops them now, different record shops, and get the music them what coming out of Jamaica. Because remember, you know, we living in New York, so we kind of looking forward to everything was coming out of Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? So my story, you know, is like, in the 80s, it's kind of rough. You know what I'm saying? Going to some of the parties, them shoot up, enough gunshot and all them things there. So it's a little bit different with my journey. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a rough journey, my journey. But I wouldn't change it for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not like me playing music for money or whatever, and play it for love, for the love of the music. And if I never love it from them time there, I wouldn't be in it seeing where you play the music.
Puma, when you came to New York, who had in the Jamaican community an actual built system that played Jamaican music like you heard it in Jamaica, and where?
Well, you have a lot of sound system. You have Downbeat was one of the sound system them. Downbeat was playing. Sir Tommy was there too, back in them times there. You have a lot of old sound systems. Some of the name them, you know, really.
Well, we have to shout out Sons Junior Sebastian.
Sound Junior was one of them.
Really important.
Minimal.
It connects all the way back to
Minimal was
downtown.
one of them. Ballet, Sir Coxon. You know what I'm saying? You have a sound named Love Injection, Preacher Sound. That's, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of sound system was here before me, who paved the way before me.
And were they playing indoors, or what was that? Was there an outdoor party, or was there an outdoor park scene for, okay.
Indoor venue. You know, sometimes, I don't know if most of you are from, if anyone of you are from Brooklyn, like the Empire Roller Ring in Brooklyn, they used to play party back in them days. You know what I'm saying? But remember, you know, when we used to go to dances back in the 80s, you know, and most of the artists, them, what you listen to now, they used to come to the party and sing live on the sound system. You know what I'm saying? So if you go to Biltmore Ballroom, you might see Super Cat, you're going to see Shabba Rankin on the microphone, you might see Brigadier Jerry, you might see Ura, you're going to see different artists, because that's where the sound system, and that's how me build my sound system. With a crew of DJ, and I want to take it to a different level. Because Shaggy used to DJ on my sound system. Red Fox used to DJ on my sound system. Naturally used to sing on my sound system. And you have many more.
I don't know if any of you know the sort of the recorded history, but there's a song called Down in Jamaica. I named the VP 40th box set after Down in Jamaica. It started out as a dub plate on his sound system.
Yeah. Well, that tune built on my sound system, I think around 1985, 84, 85, around that time. Them DJ live on the sound system. I used to play it in the parties, them, and then them get a link and a producer put it on record. You know what I'm saying? That tune became big all over the world. If you know about rhythms and stuff, the sick rhythm, the guys on the sick rhythm, and that's a New York rhythm. Enough people might check that rhythm built in Jamaica or whatever, but it's a New York rhythm.
So Puma, I don't know if we right now we want to get into the clash thing, but one of the key elements of sound system culture is clashing.
Competition.
And we're not done with you two over here yet, okay? But the competition and the sort of rough environment that you're talking about, clashing became like in a way, up to a certain point, a healthy outlet. I know it had some unhealthy manifestations as well, but talk about the sound clash tradition as it came from Jamaica to New York and how you experienced that.
Well, sound clash is a competition, so if you never been to a clash before, I can explain. I have some dub plate over there. So what is a dub plate is like an artist might sing a tune, and you go to the artist, most American would say like, I want a job from him, from the artist, or jingles, but we call it dub plate. So we might go to the artist, change the lyrics, maybe make the artist diss the other sound system. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a competition, so it's like you're going to a war. So, you know what I'm saying? Anything goes in the war. You know what I'm saying? But in our days, it's like it's a sport. So you might say certain thing on the microphone, or you might play a certain song. Some people might take it offensive, and if you not really, you know what I'm saying? If you really know say it's a sport, and you know really, after the party finish and we do the competition, everything, all of us is friends in a way. We might go to the deli and go have a breakfast or something like that, but we still, you know what I'm saying? We're still friends. But the competition is like one sound system over there, one sound system over here, and if you want to take it to the older days, because you still have the sound clash going on right now, so you'd have a set of DJ over that side, and you'd have a set of DJ on that side, and both of them will be just dissing each other on the microphone, going back and forth, and the crowd, whoever have the crowd, you know, get the crowd response more, jump up in the air and them thing there. Crowd might say, you might win the competition or whatever. And the new thing nowadays is like, from the DJ thing now, then take it to the dub plate now. So it kind of changed from bringing the artists, or the artists coming straight to the dance hall, or coming to the party live. So the artists don't have to do that now. You go to the studio, you voice the artist on the dub plate, and you come to the party, and you play that dub plate in the party. So competition now, you might play a dub plate where big up over Brooklyn or whatever, and certain lyrics, you just have to just be, you just have to be on your toes and know so well you're going into a competition, and you know so you're going there to win, regardless of what any means necessary, you want to win. So if you have to take off your shirt and roll on the floor, if you have to jump up on the ground and do anything, you have to do something to win. So, you know.
Puma, do you want to drop one of these dub plates right now, just to give people a taste of what you did for your sound system? Because he's got these original acetates. These are, when I say acetate, this is the technology actually for making a record master, but it could also be used in a very temporary way to create a one copy of music that you could play. Therefore, it's exclusive to you, and you don't have to worry about anyone else getting
we can play exclusive.
Yeah, why don't you
play one exclusive.
Play one. So we're talking about, there's two elements here: the size of this and the clarity of the sound system, and the exclusivity of the music. These are all elements of sound system culture, and I just love that he's still. So many sound men have lost their original dub plates, or they've like deteriorated. You may hear some aging, some frying, some crackling on these old plates, but let's listen. Puma, do you want to introduce this?
Well, this one is a very special dub plate for me, because this is a combination, and if you get a combination, if you don't know what's a combination, it's like you have 2 or 3 different artists in the studio at the same time. So this combination I'm going to play right now, this is Dennis Brown, Sanchez, Luciana, and Michael Rose. 4 of them in the studio at the same time, 4 of them doing the same thing. You know what I say? And it's a special dub plate for me, all right?
This has got to be the wickedest thing I've ever heard. That's in my laptop, because this is Luciana, Michael Rose, Sanchez, and D. Brown. Step fast, Luciana. Come on, some boy, back is on the runaway. Let's go. Come on, hey. The push comes to shove, alright.
What do you mean?
There comes a time whenever we sound, get to stand up and fight for we life, baby. And you got some boy, you've got to realize that envy is the ruler of the Lord. Yes, envy is the ruler of the Lord. Alright. Envy is the ruler of the know they used to say, baby Lord, hey,
All right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
with something like that, he plays that in a clash, and how are they going to outdo him?
Well, I want to tell you something, say, that one what I play, that's not the really cut what I really play in our clash. I have two cut. Okay. That one, you see that one right there? That one was the first cut. That was a mistake until them get it right together. So if you hear the other one, it kind of put, cheer them kind of more closer. So
that was the beat, the beat.
yeah, that was just the first test.
Yeah.
And the engineers still take that test. So,
Joe, what do you have to say about dub plates in the dubstep culture? How did that extend to your world?
It was a direct extension of everything you just said, 1,000%. Because when dubstep got started, and when you think about the word dubstep, dub, Jamaican sound system culture, reggae, England, South London, all right? So a lot of the producers that were making dubstep, we're talking now 25, 26 years ago, we didn't have CDJs back then. No, so you were either playing records, or if you wanted exclusive tunes, you had to cut dubs. You had to. You didn't have CDJ 2000s and Nexus 2s like we have now. You had to cut dubs. So you were getting, so I wanted to have the exclusive stuff. I didn't want to go play a show and have somebody else gonna play something that I was gonna play. No, how are you gonna stand out if you're playing something that the other dude's gonna be playing, or the other lady's gonna be playing? So I had to have my own stuff. I had to have the exclusive bits. I had the exclusive business. So we were I was cutting dub plates back then too. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I was spending hundreds of dollars a week cutting 10-inch dubs. Turnstile Records out to Oscar, cutting hundreds of thousands of dubs over my lifetime. I've got a bunch of them still. They're now at my ex-wife's garage at her house because I don't have room in my apartment for them. They're safe, don't worry. She's not gonna do anything with them. But yeah, thousands of dubs. And you hear how your dub sounded like fried chicken in the beginning? How it sounded like a cappuccino machine when you put the needle on? I have thousands of them sounding like that. Thousands of them. And used to have the old record bag with the trolley bag, stuffing all these 10-inch presses into a bag, squeezing them in tight like shoelaces. Oh man, you kidding? Oh, those were the days. I miss playing dub plates because that is the real essence of what this whole sound system culture was about. The whole thing. When you put a 10-inch or a 12-inch on a turntable, all right, you're talking about an object that is spinning. That's rotation. All right, rotation creates vibration. All right, and this vibration is the vibes that you get from a sound system like this. You know what I mean? It's no different than with your music or with anything else, or no different with dubstep. We were doing the same thing. We just had a different iteration on our expression of what sound system culture was meant to be. It was, obviously we had the roots, and I used the polysemics of the word roots because we're talking about roots from the Jamaican sound system culture, but we're also talking about the roots from where dubstep came from. We marry those two together, and that's the genre that I guess people call me a pioneer in because I've been at this a long time. So yeah, the relationship that you have with dub plates and the relationship that I've had with dub plates, it's not as divided or it's not as distant as you would think it might be, even though yours was, yeah, we were getting, producers would send me a tune here and there over AOL Instant Messenger on a DSL line, and you're waiting 8 hours for an MP3. It's like, yo, this thing gotta hurry up. Then you didn't have a real file transfer. You didn't have WeTransfer.com or Google Drive back in 2003 or 2002. So you were burning CDs. Right? You burn a CD and then you mail it to the guy who was gonna cut your dubs. You send him the money, however, money order, whatever. Then you wait a week and a half to get these unlabeled 10-inch presses, and it had that mustard colored paper sheet on them. Right? You get a little sticky label, write it in, and I would purposely write with bad handwriting. Purposely, because you had train spots, you had people looking over, they go, what's this? Okay, even if you got good eyesight, you're not gonna be able to read what I wrote. I know what I wrote, but you don't know what I wrote. That's the whole idea of having a dub plate. It's not just the exclusivity of having the tune for yourself that you know no one else is going to have, but it's also making sure that you know that even if someone tries to figure out what you just wrote, you're not going to figure it out. And a lot of times I would throw people off. I'd write some like a fake, like a pseudonym on it, right? So I know, okay, yeah, I got a new Mala bit, or I got a new Scream tune, or I got a new Loafer bit, but I'd write something like, oh, yo, Captain Crunch. It's like, yo, Joe, what's that Captain Crunch tune you played the other night? Captain Crunch? What are you talking? I don't know what that is. What? Fruit Loops, huh? What do you mean? So I'd fool people with this stuff. You had to throw people off. You can't have everybody knowing what you're playing, because that goes against the whole exclusivity of this culture. You got to have something for you.
Got to have some exclusive.
Thank you. Exclusives are it.
Lenny,
So when you talk about dub plates,
Yeah.
and we're going to go to Baltimore. So two of my friends come from his town, the Basement Boys.
Yes, my goodness.
And when Teddy finished Crystal Waters, he got it to my friend, may he rest in peace, Camacho.
Yes.
We got a tape of it. I remember taking it to make a dub plate. And we were all playing it that time at Wild Pitch in the parties in downtown Manhattan. And you want to talk about having exclusive? Even if you wrote what was on there, this stuff wasn't even signed yet.
Thank you.
That's how crazy it was. And then one time I go across to play in a small place called Napoli, and I have about 60 or 70 plates. Barbara Tucker in there. Louis Vega gave me, he just finished Deep Down Inside. He finished Beautiful People.
Beautiful people.
David Morales gave me Robert Owens.
That's right.
I finished playing my last record, my last acetate. I put it away. 5,000 people screaming. I turn around and all my plates are grabbed. And here we go. I got to go to Ibiza to play in Pasha in 2 days. I have no acetates now. So the story was condensed to this. Lenny, are you the DJ they took the acetates from? I said, yes. You were the guy that got the acetates back from the mafia? I said, yes. We got them back. So what they went and did, some of the records got copied, and they started bootlegging them. Yeah, that's what happened. I found out later. I mean, a couple of the producers got angry at me. It wasn't intentional.
It's one of those things.
But shit happens.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned about you mentioned about the Basement Boys, because again, that's Baltimore. I mean, they were the
DJ Spen.
DJ Spen, exactly. Alternate. I mean, we're talking. One of the other producers back in the day was a DJ who actually came up with the chord structure for Gypsy Woman was Neil Conway.
That's right.
Neil Conway, a legend. He's actually a music professor, a music teacher now at, Forest Park High School on the west side of Baltimore. He was the one that came up with da 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 da.
He was driving the bus at that time, if I remember correctly.
Thank you very much.
Bus driver at that time.
He was driving the bus.
But you see how it happens in life when we're talking about street level. This is all passion.
Yes.
At that time was no discussion of flying around the world making millions of dollars like later on. At that time, Gladys Pizarro would sign something to Strictly Rhythm, and she would call on people like myself, Tony Humphries, Frankie Knuckles, Junior Vasquez. I need you to start rocking this record. And she would make acetates. Think about that. At $50 a pop, and make 20 of them to get them to the key people that she knew that was going to be running that record, and next thing you knew, you had a massive hit.
Yes.
That's how easy it was back then.
Yeah.
Now, I got to give out an MP3 to 3,000 idiots to get no effing response.
Yes.
Or, who are you? Because they're so young. They don't know my big records, Chocolate Sensation I had as a hit, or Powerhouse with Dwayne Harden, What You Need, or any of these records I made through the 90s. Like, to them, it's like, yo, you're old. But yet, I'm listening to their sets, and the record labels are releasing stuff, and it sounds like me, and Louis Vega, and Kenny Dope, and Johnny D from Henry Street, and we're all saying...
And Todd Terry.
Todd Terry.
Josh Balan.
But this man here, Puma, for example, is very important to the whole thing here. because of the Jamaican, and I talked about this before yesterday, Sly and Robbie. Everybody know them?
Of course.
All right, we know who they are. Okay. So a big record in the 80s was called Don't Make Me Wait by the Peach Boys. Don't make me wait another night. Night I'm gone. And in there had these claps. And that's the first time you heard a real, where we hear dub style. Now they're taking the vocals. Don't make me wait. There was no record release like that before. That's where Jamaican reggae, dubstep, now hits dance music.
Yes.
And everybody goes crazy. And who takes it to the next level? Guys like Shep Pettibone. You start hearing mixes that all are coming off that. Arthur Baker, Planet Rock, all that stuff starts to variate off the reggae sound.
Right.
And what dubstep was doing. Just that moment, like now, you may not have ever heard dubstep. You as a clubber or a patron to the sound. But somehow now, this thing that's happening here is King Tubby influences Larry Levan. He's hearing things. Larry Levan now goes and hangs out with Sly and Robbie. Sly and Robbie, of course, are Jamaican as Jamaican is. There is no more, that is the island, their sound. And they're producing records on Island Records, Chris Blackwell, okay, and Paradise Garage Records, all coming together. And how that all comes together, Eddie Grant.
Electric Avenue.
Electric
Killer
Avenue.
on the Rampage
but
album,
even before
1981.
Even before Electric Avenue,
Yeah.
Larry Levan's playing Living on the Front Line.
Remember that too.
You can play it. And you'll see what I mean, Living on the Front Line in New York City at Paradise Garage. Listen to this, and this is what you're going to say. We have it?
Mama, mama, you got me?
Living on the front. Bum, 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 bum. Do-do-do-do-do. And the bass would go, gong, 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 and the whole place would go, holy shit. You'll see what I mean. So you see what happened there? So this white boy came home and said, yo, you gotta hear this record. So I go get this record, I put it on in the morning, because I gotta hear my sound system if it sounds like what I heard. And my sound system crying at home. And it was like, oh my God, you heard this in that room and you said, I want that sound. And unless you start to go and pony up, Mom, Dad, can you help me here? Are you out of your mind? Go get a job. You really think? So my best thing was I got these pair of Gem Sound speakers with state-of-the-art white piezo tweeters. Why? Because I couldn't afford bullets. Those JBL bullets. I couldn't afford that, so I got these double 15 towers, and I thought I was hot shit with them. So I play that record on there, and I go, oh, this is garbage. This is garbage. But you know what? You deal with it.
So you have like a plastic tweeter there.
And I burned out all the piezos. because I didn't realize that, at the top end, I'm pushing it, tweezing it, and all of a sudden you hear them go, tss, tss, and that was the end of that to my sound system. Because I was always known to having everything in the red.
When you first start out, you always buy the cheap stuff, them.
You don't know that. You don't have money.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't have money.
Until you realize, well, all right, you know what? I think I better save up and spend the money and buy the better stuff.
Well, what he was saying was what was going on was fellas were running around and they were robbing the green bullets. So when you saw people's sound systems, you knew where they got their bullets. From the New York Railroad Authority. It was like, those are the those are the state-of-the-art green bullets. That means you didn't pay shit for those.
But remember you mentioned
remember the subway, the
yes,
change station.
In the subway.
Right, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Remember the on them back in the days?
Yeah, the green one, yeah.
So we used to take them and put them in the speaker. Bullet.
There you go, the green bullet, yeah. That's the one. And you had amazing top end. And then later on, you went to the club and you saw them shining what they called the Z-Array. With the chain in Manhattan.
Yeah.
You would see these actors, they hang them. So they put 4 or 6, like Garage had 6 in each one. T's, they look like, they're cannons. So they would be this way and that way. So imagine you had 1, 2, 3, 6 of them in the room with these stacks. And Bertha's with extensions and Waldorf's, which is a half stack, and Emeralds. Waldorf's with the tops. And this was his home sound system in a sense, because like Paradise Garage was built off the loft, David Mancuso's loft was his home. And everybody who experienced that, including Steve Rebell, who went on to do 54 and all them later, all experienced being around that and brought what they seen and experienced there to you and created what we now know as the commercial nightclubs. But at first, it started out as a house party. Like everything. Like, hey, why don't you just come on my house and let's have a good time kind of thing. But then it became every week. And then it was a membership-only thing, because that's the only way you were able to get in, is through membership, because that's the only way he could keep the police from cutting and shutting him down.
Right.
Those days.
Go ahead, Hassan.
I don't even remember what I was going to say.
Hey, well, when you think of it, Joe had something to say, because I'm going to give him the opportunity to endorse Sly and Robbie again, because I'll just keep doing
Sly
that
and
myself.
Robbie, they were amazing. And I assume you all have heard of Grace Jones, right? Yeah. If you remember the Nightclubbing album, that entire Nightclubbing album, that was Sly and Robbie. If you remember that song, Nightclubbing, doom, doom, ba-doom, do-doom, doom, doom. Years later.
Taxi.
Correct. Years later, Barrington Levy and Shine sampled that.
Yes.
Same record. Same record. So yeah, Sly and Robbie, they were massively influential in a lot of pop music, especially with a lot of what Grace Jones was doing. And that Nightclubbing album was what, 1981, 82, I think it was? Yeah, it's early 80s. So we're talking, that album's 40 years old. Classic.
Yeah, and this is all the while they were the engine for one of the greatest reggae bands ever, which is Black Uhuru. Yes. But they were doing that, and then they were doing these amazing club records that were relevant in the United States, and even some stuff that people don't even know about it. We tested out the sound system Under the Bridge a couple of years ago with their instrumental cover of Billie Jean, and it's like one of the baddest, biggest, dopest cuts you could ever imagine. Yeah. Hassan, you got your train of thought back?
Well, I was mentioning, when you mentioned the loft, I was told that they erected the floor and put sand and then put a wooden floor over the sand and then put the sound system in, because the sand did something to the acoustics in the room. Or your knees, okay. Oh,
to
dancing.
Your knees.
Okay.
You know, these Brooklyn clubs have a problem, and I complain every time I go. There's concrete floors, and dancers don't like concrete floors. Why? Because your joints hurt after a while. So what Garage thought about was, yes, it was a parking garage, which is, with a tremendous amount of concrete and steel rebar. How do we soften up? So there would be about 3.5 to 4 inches, the floor is raised and filled with sand. So it's almost like a floating. It actually feel like you had a bounce to it. okay? And it felt scary, too, in a lot of clubs that you experienced that, because you felt when everybody's jumping up and down, this place is going to drop. You know, your mind's thinking that. It's not a matter of what you're experiencing, or if you're high, or if you're drinking some of that stuff that came from that funky bar, you know, because there was no alcohol. Imagine that. Imagine that, going to a club and there's no alcohol and everybody's high on life.
I love that.
Okay?
I love that.
No, hang on.
Sign me up.
Ether in the air. A cloud of ether. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not just talking hashish, I'm talking about ether. Like freebasing, you could smell that smell, you're like, wow. So even if you're not taking drugs, you're dancing and you're inhaling what you're all around you. And in those days, cigarette smoking, hey man, let me get a Newport from you. You know what I'm saying? People were bumming cigarettes, dancing, smoking. It wasn't like now, oh, you have a cigarette at the club? Oh God, I smell. Who wants to come home smelling like a cigarette again, right? But you want to know something? I miss all that.
Yeah.
I do miss it. Come on, let's be real. You all miss that, right?
Remember, you know, when you leave in your house to go to a club or you're going to a party. You know what I say?
Right.
You're going there to have fun. You're going there to drink. You're going there to smoke and have fun and come back home.
Hopefully. Hopefully you make it home, because what had happened is you would leave Saturday and not get back to almost Monday. That's what happens sometimes.
You're going to the rave?
Yeah, well, not even rave. No. Think about this. Larry Levan would walk in the room 3:30, 4 in the morning and start. That party wouldn't kick off till 6. He's going to 1 o'clock. After you finish there, you're going to the beaches, it's the summer, or you're going to another party. Some people would keep going, okay? Some people went out to Fire Island in the summer, right after going and dancing all night. Timmy Regisford would do long sets at Shelter. Another legend who is also from Jamaica background, and who was a massive influence in the 80s nightclubbing scene, and as well signing records and bands and helping house music, Merlin Bob. These are names that were part of the New York scene, all sparring off of Larry Levan, Tony Humphries, and the list goes, David Morales, Frankie Knuckles out of Chicago. I mean, the list goes on. And there's so many smaller other people that I'm forgetting along the way that helped. But with reggae, I'm gonna give this credit to one guy who really helped push this to all of us, that we didn't realize how important it was. I went with my wife in '89 to Sunsplash in Jamaica. And we got to see, we were there, we stood at Sandals, we were Chorrillos, we got to experience it. I'm not a big reggae fanatic. I like it. We like it when we're there. Nothing against, because I appreciate it. But who drilled it into us at Wild Pitch was Bobby Condors. Bobby would play the sets. Not only was he doing it when we were doing the nights playing, he would also be on WBLS at that time, now pushing it on the radio. Because before that, we really didn't hear the sounds of Carnival, the sounds of what he was doing, till this white boy Bobby, who everybody thought was black, until we met him.
And Bayless, he used to play for Pat McKay.
Yeah, you're right.
And Bayless. Yeah. And then he went to Hot 97.
But the thing was, Bobby, nobody knew. All you knew was like.
Well, Bobby's like one of us, you know, because Bobby grew up in the ghetto like we do. You know what I say? So we take Bobby like one of we's.
Right.
You know what I say? Bobby used to go to the Biltmore, the Starlight. He probably, you something looking at the crowd, you see the only white man at the club is Bobby. You
That's right. Exactly.
And Bobby I come from the house music, you know what I say? Can produce different genre music.
Yeah, because Bobby did a record called The Poem that all of us embraced. You know, this poem, and it's got the reggae, I forget.
Muta Baruka.
Right. So he uses that part, and then he's got an organ bass line that's really deep and dark.
Yep.
But it's kind of like how Bobby plays. You know, it's his sound. So he did a couple of house records that crossed in, and with the love of WBLS and having the power of New York radio to play it on a master mix constantly, And then having guys like Junior Vasquez at Sound Factory and Louis Vega, or whoever was playing at the time, working these records, you know, it doesn't take long for people to catch on to a sound.
We have to give Bobby him respect, and we have to give
Respect to
Davin Levy too.
Darren Levy.
Yeah,
And
we have to
Sting.
give Davin Levy, Sting International.
Sting
we have to give.
International, how
Yeah, we
I
have
met
to give.
him was at the Underground. I was playing the Underground, so was Sting.
Yeah.
And this was a time everybody didn't realize who really Sting was. You know, later on we find out he's this Italian Jamaican kid. You know, it's like, wow. You know, you don't know, because in those days we didn't have Google to go and say, let me go see who Puma, what he looks like. You just saw the record, you fell in love with the sound, and then you went and looked for who this artist was. Now it's kind of takes all the fun away.
The technology kind of take away a lot from the music.
Stinks.
You know what I'm saying? Imagine if we did have that technology in our time.
Oh my God,
mean,
could you imagine that? That we would be in a club in the 80s, like taking, yo, look at me. I'm at the garage or wherever. Could you imagine when people be going crazy?
Remember when we used to party back in the days, we never have cellular phones and them stuff. We used to walk, when we go into the club, you have a piece of paper and you have your pen. So that means if you get the number, you get a number, you collect it for that. So we don't have no cellular phone where you look on the phone and music playing and you're not paying attention, nothing like that. So that kind of take away a lot from, you know, the parties and the music.
Yes.
I'm glad you guys called out Bobby Condors, who was actually wanted to be on this panel tonight, but he couldn't, and he has a great story to tell and is really crucial in that side-by-side hip-hop meets dance hall 90s culture. But Sting also deserves credit for being a meticulous sound man. And in case you don't know who Sting International is, we're not talking about the former lead singer of the Police. We're talking about the producer who produced a song called It Wasn't Me by Shaggy, which everyone knows. If you don't know anything else, you've heard that song. That level of mega success as a producer. That's big respect to Sting.
Most of Shaggy hits them.
He was Shaggy's right-hand man for years and years and years. Hassan, you look like you want to say something.
Sting, every summer he plays in Coney Island and Fort Greene Park, and he brings out, like, I don't know, maybe 2 sets of Berthas.
6 stacks.
6 stacks. Yes.
Because I always tell him, you're out of your mind.
Yes. Very humble guy. Very humble.
So, Joe, I want to come back to you for a minute, because dubstep in particular, and a lot of the tradition that came out of UK sound system music, like I said earlier when I think I brought you on, I said it takes bass to a next level where we're talking about sub bass frequencies and like just some stuff that it probably would hurt my ears or give me tinnitus more than I already have, you know. But it's like some people have an incredible tolerance for volume and bass. That, like, I see people like Etika, wherever she is. I see her. She's like one of these people who likes to stand right next to the cabinets and get the full force of the sound system. But talk about that next level bass as a part of your music.
Well, again, dubstep, it's sound system music. It is sound system music. It's designed to be played on big speakers. It was never meant to be played off of your iPhone or your Android. It was never meant to be played off of your laptop. So I remember when I first brought dubstep across the Atlantic Ocean to North America, I was the first guy who did it. I was the guy. And, you know, I would play these shows. I would play in front of 10 people on a Friday night, all right, with a bag of dub plates. And people were like, this sounds like whale noises. I don't like this. All right, people complaining. It's like, how come you have to have a big sound system to hear it, Joe? I don't understand why. Right? Again, sound system music. You need big speakers. As this brother Joe Akali would say, big speaker business. And there's a lot here. So we needed that sound. We needed big speakers to get the dub which is bass element as part of dubstep. That's what we needed. We needed a big system. There's a tune that I want to play.
Yeah, good time for
All
that.
right? Dear friend of mine, Mala, one half of Digital Mystics, a tune called Lean Forward. When you hear the bass in this tune, you'll understand what these low frequencies are about. There's not a whole lot going on in the higher frequencies. This is low end. This is sound system music. So yeah, let's go ahead.
As the subway comes under.
Yeah.
Actually, my ears.
Hold on. No, keep that going. Keep that going. Keep that going. I wanted to get to the second drop. Now.
My ears started to feel better.
All right, with dubstep, the second drop's an important thing. So yeah, let's keep that moving. Let's keep that rolling. Out to all the historians that know this one, second drop on this. So I hope y'all getting where we're going with this, all right? This is what we're talking about. This is that low-end business. This is that big speaker business. This is that sound system. This is that dub bass and dubstep. This is what, that's, look, it doesn't get much better than that.
All right, so that's dubstep.
Yes, sir.
But some people might listen to it and it's similar, like jungle.
Yes.
So what's the difference now between the jungle and the dubstep?
Slower, right?
It's
slower.
consider, yes.
Saying the jungle's faster. Than
Much
the thing
faster.
He's playing is slower.
But the first song when play, it sounds like a bit jungle still.
Yeah, jungle's about 160, 165 beats per minute. Much faster, obviously, than dubstep, which is at 140 beats per minute. But again, jungle, still bass-heavy music, but there's a lot more percussion really in the higher end, a lot of drums. Most of that came, the drum patterns, most of that came from the Winston's Amen break. Amen Brother, and then the Amen break. That one song created essentially two genres of music.
Actually,
we're talking, hold on, real quick. We're talking really just jungle and drum and bass came from one break, one 6-second break from the Winston's Amen Brother. That's how you get the Amen break, and then everything else came after that. The other break, obviously, when we're talking about bass music, electronic music, is Lynn Collins and the Think break. I mean, again, I grew up in Baltimore. I was a Baltimore club DJ before I became dubstep. How many songs out of Baltimore club came from the Think break? I mean, my goodness. Yeah, classic stuff. Yeah, you look like you were going to say something. Oh, yeah,
actually, if I remember correctly, Goldie told me the James Brown loop was used as well. In Jungle, they sped that thing up.
Yes, that was the other break, yes.
That's Bernard Purdy playing those drums, if I remember correctly?
No, it might have been Clyde Stubblefield.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So think about that. James Brown, Clyde Stubblefield, one record makes a whole genre of music.
Another one, yes. Yep.
The disco beat, Earl Young. Toonch, toonch, toonch. And house music is derived from disco. So these genres all seem to come from offshoots, like embryos from the main pieces. So when we say, well, why does it sound like, he asked me before, with house music to disco, disco never died. The revenge was house music. A bunch of us who love disco just said, we're going to sample the records when the technology happened. And that's what happened. We just took those drum beats.
What about club music?
That's the in-between part. That's the in-between part of when house music around 84 starts. But before that, you had James D. Train Williams and D. Train and Keep On and the Aleems, Release Yourself, all these kind of records, all filling in the middle part.
Experiment.
But disco never ended. It just became more underground, a little more controlled. Wasn't the disco duck crap now. We're going back to real music again.
What would Colonel Abrams, what would he be considered?
Oh, wow.
R&B dance music. That's how we would have categorized it.
Really? Colonel
dance.
Abrams? R&B dance music?
Yeah, because later on he did some Music Is the Answer, you would say is kind of like a house record, but those records like Speculation, oh.
Yeah, but then you listen to a song by Colonel Abrams.
R&B dance.
Yeah, but Mathematics, when you listen to that as chords, right? I mean, that sounds like a straight house tune.
Kind of house music, but we're not there yet.
Oh, wow. Man, Colonel Abrams was serious.
Colonel Abrams is like D-Train. He's right in between.
Right on that cusp.
But think about it.
Yeah.
Those songs became huge commercial anthems. Pop records. Colonel Abrams was like the Black Elvis to a lot of people.
You put on Trapped right now, it's over.
Oh, I'm Trapped.
Shut down.
Hey.
Shut down. It's over. Oh, man.
So I just kind of got the 10-minute warning. So just so we know, we gotta wind down our conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
What? We just got
We can go. We just. We might go a little overtime as so many DJs here that cannot stop.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm going to take questions.
Hassan, yeah, we do want to take a couple questions, but I wanted to know, Hassan, did you want to play?
Yeah, that's basically a tape. When I was doing the documentary, Founding Fathers, one of the DJs, they used to record on reel-to-reel parties. So they had this on reel-to-reel, and I digitized it. That's from, I think, 1975, 76. But I just wanted you to hear, I don't know if you could hear, there was one song playing and then another record mixed in. Back then, that was a big deal because, like I was saying earlier, the equipment back then, turntables weren't made to manipulate and mix records the way it could be done today.
They were belt driven, and you had to have a super easy touch, or you would
Yes.
wreck the thing, or it just wouldn't hold. The torque that the direct drive turntables brought into the game made it entirely different. So we are, as I said, coming down to the end. So I just want to give each of our panelists a chance to make a final comment, and because we don't have time for questions, we all will be downstairs and for a meet and greet, and you can ask any questions that you want of any of us for sure. So Hassan, do you have any like closing thoughts for us?
I would just like to say I learned a lot myself. You think you know everything, but...
No, I like the other day when we were talking, yesterday when we were talking on the phone, you said, I'm a baby in this, which I appreciated because we have to acknowledge that there's a whole generation before any of us who aren't here to tell their story,
Yes.
right? And it's good, the humility of knowing what you don't know.
Yes.
As much as you know, you got to know what you don't know. So
Yes.
I figured each of us would learn from each other, and so I appreciate you saying that.
Yes.
Yeah, Lenny.
I would like all of you to follow my show, True House Stories, because on there I have people from RLA Sound, Sister Sledge, Kool and the Gang, all talking like we're talking right now about the real life stuff that happened. And I will go to the end of time with this, all this great knowledge we all share, and hope to Christ I can pass it on to all of you. Because that's why I came here today. It's not for me just to have this knowledge. And, you know, I feel like I'm blessed in a lot of ways. I was asked by the BBC to do Legends of the Dance Floor, and I did that whole story on Larry Levan and the tapes I owned. And like him, he did his documentary. And because of COVID, I created a show called True House Stories that actually made a difference to a lot of people. And we were able to expose a lot of the inside of what we don't really understand or know about people in their real life, day to day, and how to make it. Because it's not all about being at the top. It's also how you live in the valley, you know? And that's part of our life. And this is why we do what we do. Because it's not always about being at the peak. You know, you're gonna be sometimes more in the valley area. And the rat race and the championship, like you said, the competition. Because as much as we are all friends, social media changed something. And created some sort of a little bit of a fake reality sometimes. And yes, sometimes I put some great nights that I've played and I extend those edits to play them in between weeks when I'm not working. So it makes us always look like we're busy, you know, and I know others that do that too, you know. You can't be always working all the time. You know, you also have to be in planning stages and you have to work extra hard now, you know. The difference from when I came up to now, back in the day, you needed to have money and trust to invest, and you needed to be confident what you were releasing as a producer, as a DJ. Now, you don't need money. You need, well, you do need money. I shouldn't say that. But to press vinyl, for example, like if you had a record label back in the day, you had to know if you're gonna make an investment on an artist, you had to have money to play that game. Now you can release stuff all day and all night. And that's what happens when you do too much of something. It loses quality along the way. You know, that A&Ring of someone listening to your record saying, you know what, if you go back and change that, or you fix that, it'll be a lot better. That got lost. Because now the person who's in the bedroom, he changes the hat and he's the mastering guy, and he's the guy who's going to be at the admissions for the party, and he's the DJ, and he's doing every job, you know? And not to say that's wrong. But I do believe in one most important thing. You need a village to make something great. You have to share. So share the wealth. Thank you, everyone.
Well, first thing first, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and listen a little bit of my journey. Just a little tip, you know what I'm saying? I have to give thanks to that. And I wouldn't change it, as I said before, for nothing. And one of my goals is in business is to see all the DJ, sound system DJ, club DJ, get more respect for we craft, what we do. You know what I mean? Because remember, nowadays, club costs a lot of money nowadays to rent a venue. Went up. Security, you have to get them have to get them money. You have to go to the, when you're keeping a party, you have to buy liquor and you have to pay the liquor man for your money. But
yeah,
the
it's a huge
DJ
risk.
always get underpaid. And my goal is to get the DJs them, try to get them a little bit more money. You know what I'm saying? Get more respect.
Well said. Yeah.
I want to echo Colin's sentiments about thanking everybody for coming out here tonight, because the word that I've heard mentioned amongst all of us here is community. But the most important letters of that word are the last 5, unity. That's why we do this, right? It was Stevie Wonder that once said, music is a world within itself. It's a language we all understand. This is why we do it. We do it because we love it. We do it because we love the music. We do it because we love the events. Most importantly, we do it because we love the people that show up to these events. That's why we do it. You know, everybody remembers their first record. Nobody remembers their first download. Nobody. And I'm so thankful for everyone here, the panelists here. I'm thankful for this whole event, because when I think about my journey and my involvement in all of this, it's almost impossible. It really honestly is. There's realistically no reason why a guy from Baltimore who started out playing Baltimore club and soulful house could literally bring an entire genre of music from South London to North America, and it's exploded, for better and for worse. For better and for worse. And there are days where I'm like, why did I do this? What the hell was I thinking back in 2001? But then when I get to play music in front of a room or a crowd or a field of people, the 25-year-old me looks at the 47-year-old me now and is thankful for going through everything that I had to go through to get to where I am now, right? We, as DJs, as artists, as musicians, we pay for the journey, but the destination is free, right? So when you pay us to play a show, you're not paying us to play the music. No. We would have done that for free. We were doing that for free long before we became who we are here sitting on this panel. Long before that. You're paying for all of the other stuff to get us to the place where we can share our passions with all of you. And that's why we love doing this. That's why the sound system culture is so important. That's why community is so important. But most importantly, that is why unity is so important. So thank you all for being here tonight. I'm honored, and I mean this sincerely, I'm honored to be in the presence of all of you and everyone here tonight. Thank you so much.
Round of applause for all the panelists. Round of applause for yourself. Please join us downstairs afterwards. And on behalf of Dub-Stuy, again, my name's Carter Van Pelt, and check me out at Coney Island, hopefully this summer, but definitely a Reggae Under the Bridge, and you'll see Puma and LP International at least one time for sure. And I just want to leave as we go out. I want to leave one song playing because for me it kind of sums up the broadest sense of the appeal of the sound system. It's a record that I never would have imagined you could play on a sound system and it would work. And it's one of the most popular jazz records of all time, and it had a big impact in Jamaica, and it's from 1959, and I know most of you will know it, but I doubt you've ever heard it. So I hope you can make it sound good, Johnny, go figure.